Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Vitalogy Podcast. This is brought to you by Emmanuel Faith, and we're so glad to be here. This is my good friend Ryan Paulson. Ryan, how are you doing?
Josh, I'm good. I'm just sharing on my Facebook here that we're live.
Oh, good,
I
good.
want people to know we're sort of like wrestling a wet eel as
I
far
know,
as figuring
I
out
know.
when we go live.
I know,
And that
yeah.
is not. We're not trying to avoid you.
No,
We are just trying to be the best pastors and employees
And
and
parents.
dads that we can be.
so I've got a Dodger hat on today. I was raised in LA County, raised in Pasadena, so I'm a Dodger fan. But
We won't hold that against you.
thank you. I'm not an anti Padre fan, to be clear. Like I want them to win. I own a hat also, a Padre hat, so you don't need to buy me one. But I don't have the new one with brown, so maybe. But I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go. There you go.
But my kid's actually on the Dodgers today, and so
Okay,
as
cool.
soon as this, I'm going to catch the end of his game, and
I'm going to coach my
you're
son
coaching.
at 7. So
Yeah.
here we go.
But it's been fun to hear from people, and those of you out there who have mentioned this to me. I know some have talked to you as well, but just how much they love joining in, and so they would like us to get a more normal time, which we will one day.
Yeah, we will. And I
We won't
think
always be coaching.
in a few weeks, we're going to try to do not only a live online show, but live like studio audience show.
That was
which
my
will be
drum
really
roll, by
fun.
the way. Classy
Really fun.
drum roll. That we're going to invite you to come out on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And so we've got to make sure schedules work for games and
We
things.
should figure that out.
We should probably figure that out. But we are praying. We're hoping we will make this announcement official next week.
Can't wait.
Okay. But the second week of May is our hope to launch a live in-person time where we're gonna be here live on Facebook still. So if you don't want to come into the building, you're welcome to join us as always on Facebook. But then we're gonna have a live audience as well.
Yes.
And we'll be taking questions from both.
That'll be
And
fun.
That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Some interaction online, the way you always do, and interaction from the audience. I think it's gonna be a blast.
So feel free. Dump us some of your questions
Yes.
online.
Yes.
If you'd like, you can send us an email at questions@eftc.org.
That's
Nothing is off limits. We love talking about the Bible, about theology, about culture, about whatever you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
So jump in and ask those questions, and we will do our best to give an honest and biblically informed response.
Syrup, lumberjacks, all of it. We
All
can do
of
it
it.
all.
Let's
all
do it.
of the above.
Yes.
We've talked a little bit about COVID, and that's over now, right? Is COVID over?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Please, Lord. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's not over, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot declare that here, but it is easing, right?
Yeah, I think
We're getting into new season.
I read the newspaper online on my app every morning, and it's nice to see those arrows trending down on a daily basis. And so praise God. I mean, it means that more people are healthy, and that's good.
I am half vaccinated. Inoculated? That's not inoculated. Vaccinated. Thank you. That's a better word. Vaccinated. I am half vaccinated.
That means you only have to wear half a mask.
I do.
So,
and in fact, that's all I have to wear now.
That's good.
I know. I got my first shot.
Right.
Little sore over there for a day or so, but other than that, I was fine.
Right on. I have not gotten mine yet.
No,
but
you haven't got poked.
I've been busy. My goodness.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Anyway,
A little bit. We've done some things around here.
We have. We had a big weekend.
Yes,
so
we did.
Those of you who were around, just a sweet weekend of God's faithfulness, His presence with us. We met inside for the first time.
First time in 14 months?
At least 13 months from that building. So March 12th. No, so March 15th was our first canceled service.
Yeah,
so the
March
8th would have been our last service, and April 25. So yeah,
almost
about 13 months.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So it felt so good to be back together under one roof. And, we tried our best to make everybody feel as comfortable as possible. So we didn't enforce the mask rule on the floor. So, but we also had a mask zone in the balcony, and we had a number of people join us in the courtyard first service out there, and then still a few hundred online that were watching live. So
exactly. Well, we've never been terribly enforcers. It's one of those things when someone wants to come to church, we want them to come to church.
Yeah,
and that's really our attitude. It's always been our attitude, and so it's not like we've kicked anyone out. But we do appreciate it. Those people that and our the people that were up in the balcony, they appreciated when people wore masks. It just gives, I think it's a great middle ground to give people options.
It is.
And so downstairs, a lot of people, I saw them wearing masks. Some stayed masked the whole time. Some didn't. And it was good.
It was good.
It was really
the highlight
sweet.
Of the weekend.
Yeah.
So here's the cool thing, you guys. So we spend a ton of, time, energy, money, all that remodeling the worship center. And I can't tell you how grateful I am that after all that happened and all that went into a relaunch, the thing that people have been talking about.
What's that?
The cross.
The cross. All right. Okay. Well, did you notice that Seth is here with us?
Oh, no way.
And so
on.
That was a perfect timing. I thought you saw that. But no, this is stuff Seth makes. And he's on with us today. So Seth,
cool.
You want to say anything? Now's the time to post. But
oh my goodness. Yeah. It just was such an encouragement to me that after all that work and all the energy and all the, you tried your best to create something that people are going to love.
Yeah.
I just loved that we were talking about the cross.
The cross. Well, okay. So if you were there, if you weren't, go back and watch the service. I believe you can see the whole service still on YouTube, at least.
I'm working with our comms team to make sure that
making
it
sure
back up.
Yeah. We're all figuring out new ways of doing things now. These are much, much better ways. Oh my goodness, beautiful video and audio coming out of our system. That's all going online. It's all there now, but at least the sermon, you'll be able to see the sermon. Yeah. And there's a part that this got me. Like I heard, I've known the story. I know Seth. I've known the story of the cross. I knew what we were doing with the cross. I even knew that they were making a video about the cross, but I hadn't seen the video until I'm watching it live with other people. All right. And that's just not fair.
Yeah.
Because that was a tearjerker. Seth, that was just mean of you to do. All right.
It was awesome.
You made lots of people cry this weekend. And so thanks a lot, man.
It was so good.
It was so good. Though, it was so good. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Probably hundreds of hours that Seth put in. But the way that it honored the past, pointed us towards our future. Yeah. And on top of that is a beautiful piece of art that will be at the center point of our worship for the next, who knows how many decades.
These couple weeks.
Just my
no.
goodness.
For a long time. Seth says,
awesome.
Seth is so Seth also works on staff here. He says, hurry, talk about me. Is that what you want us to hurry? Or hurry, get on with the topic. But he's about to go clean toilets. And God bless this guy. I mean, he's a servant around here.
Yeah,
he
big
cleans our children's building. He's on our maintenance team, and here he is, this artist. He does on the side. He does this kind of work and stuff. And so I'm sure, Seth, if you could throw up a website, we'll post it for you. But I'm sure it has something to do with stuff Seth makes. That might even be the website itself. And I'm sure it is. But anyway,
it was a sweet day. So really good to be back inside.
It really was. No, that cross was the highlight.
Yep.
It was a highlight in the message. At least it really drove home.
It was sort of like I tried my best to drop a breadcrumb in early on that eventually came back to and said, okay, here, you guys, this is what it's all about.
I know. And how did you know that they would pull it off that well?
I didn't. I could go back and look at my text messages to see when I asked our comms team to film that video.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I'm not that smart. Like, I don't have that.
Okay.
I'm not that good of a planner. Just like, oh, yep, this was the plan all along. Like Seth said, it was his idea to use the pea wood. And it was initially sort of like that would be cool. A cool way to tie in our past to our future. And, but it was so much of it was just God at work. And that was the cool part about it.
I know. And I've known Seth for a long time as well. And Seth, I just, you've never been emotional, so I wasn't expecting that. And so like, that's not the side that you see all that often of Seth. And so that it would just came together, and it was authentic and real.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that was powerful, because it was clear. It's not like you were trying to manipulate anybody. You know what I mean? It was just you. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So it was just his journey of thinking about the cross. So the cross that he was making and where it's going to go, and it really brought together the past and the future.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of what this message was about.
That just we called it the tension of transition.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I wanted to try. So I told our team earlier on that my original idea was, I'm just going to preach on what I'd planned on preaching on, you know. We're inside, we're not outside. No big deal.
Yeah. We even did planning for you to do that.
We did.
And
I mean, that was the plan up until Monday. You know,
that's right. That's right.
And so, but that's sort of my personality, right? Like, I'm like, let's just keep going. I'm a creature of habit. It's what I have planned to do. I'm going to do it. It's sort of how I try to manage, trying to keep a number of balls in the air at the same time.
Yeah.
But I really got home Sunday night after worship the previous Sunday, and just had this sense from the Spirit, like, you have to step into this moment, right? Like, this is going to be a moment, and you need to address it. And as I prayed through it, what I really felt like I needed to address was that there's going to be a lot of emotions around transition, around change. And as great as I think the new worship center is, and just to be clear, I think it's great, there's going to be some people that are lamenting and grieving what was.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to do my best to meet people in that space and to give freedom, right? So that I didn't want people to feel like, gosh, I've got to love this. No, you don't. And I don't want people to feel like I can't grieve what was. No, you can. There's space for that in not only in our church, but historic Christianity, being a follower of God. Like, and that was the cool part, was as I really prayed through that, the Lord pointed me to Ezra chapter 3 and the rebuilding of the second temple.
Yeah. And what a great analogy. Here they were away from this a lot longer. They'd been away from, and in fact, the temple was destroyed.
Yep.
So this is a fully rebuilding project.
We destroyed ours.
Well, according to some, no,
in order to rebuild. I mean,
we had to.
Yeah, if you would have had a film crew in there, for the previous few months, you would have gone, they're destroying. There's
no way it's coming back.
There's
but
a demo crew.
It does. I mean, it looks different, but the bones, it is still the same building, and there's some very key characteristics of the building that are even highlighted now.
Yeah.
Which I love. That I would say brings it out and makes it more beautiful. And yet I think you're wise to say that because a lot gets put into a building, right? And no one in our church is like, saying that building is the church, right? No. Everyone, that's one of the things we've really learned well during COVID, is that the church is the people.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's in a sense one of the blessings of COVID has really driven that home.
Reminded us of that. Yeah.
That it's gathering together as the people. But at the same time, there's something special about a building, and that's always been that way in a sense.
Yeah. I think, I think of even like a home. There's a feeling you get when you come home.
Absolutely.
There's a feeling that you get when you go back and visit like your parents' home. You go, oh gosh, there's a lot of memories here.
Yes.
And I think that you lay on top of that it's sacred space. It's space where we cultivate time and focus to interact with God.
Yeah.
And God has met people in that building for the last, what is it, 1970 something. So 50 years ish. And so anytime that is the case, the feel carries with it, I would say, more than just a nostalgia, but a sense of like remembrance of God's faithfulness. And, that's the way I think that's why some songs are so moving for us. It's not just that we love the lyrics and the tune. It's when we sing those songs, we remember the way that God has met us in that tune and lyric. And it brings us back to that place, which adds layers of significance to us, you know? And I think any building that God meets you in, like a worship center, sanctuary, does the exact same thing. Does the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, seriously, with that hat, Rose. Thanks. Greg is a diehard Padre fan. And so, you know, you just gotta point it out. Yes, seriously. But you missed the beginning part. My son is on the Dodgers also, so I get to wear it as we go to his game next. But you know, Marilyn is just saying thank you for helping us transition and appreciate what God may have been whispering during our challenging isolation time. And so I think what she's getting at is that this message kind of brought a good bookend to this whole time. Not that it's fully over, but it was a good way to enter back into that sacred space. Recognizing that it's different, but recognizing that it's also the same, and that while some things change, some things don't.
Then that was, you know, Josh, as a leader in this season, we've tried our best to say, all right, guys, let's keep moving forward. God's got this. We're going to be faithful. Yep. We're meeting outside. And, you know, you sort of try to put on that like strong posture of like, yeah, we're good. God's got this. I think it really hit me when I stood up there on Sunday, just how much I've missed that and how it was different. And to be quite frank, this was the hardest 13 months I've had in ministry. I mean, just going, Lord, how are we going to, you know, I don't know how I'm going to sustain this pace. I don't know, God, what are you doing in our midst? How are you shaping us, moving us, making us, molding us in the midst of all of this? And oh, wow. So there was a sense of like a release valve and to be able to feel all that honestly, even with our congregation on Sunday, like struggling with maybe or lamenting different types of things, but things nonetheless, you know? So
was it weird not getting to stop in the middle of your sermon and change the scene?
Like have music in between points.
Have music in between. You had to, this was one of the first sermons just done, you
inside. I mean, we've been preaching outside,
but without a pre-trial run, you know.
Exactly.
We've been filming them, and you do
a few days,
you kind of break it into scenes. So you kind of think through, like, you know, how far should I?
But the really cool thing, Josh, was afterwards I had a few people come up to me, and I was thinking mostly corporate journey for our body. Like this was a fairly personal message for our church. Right?
Sure.
But I had a number of people come up to me afterwards and who are contemplating moves and different things going on in their life. And they said, I just want you to know, like, this message really spoke to us. And I thought, well, praise God, because that wasn't really what I had in mind. But as I stepped back a little bit and looked at the journey of the passage and the way that God journeys with his people, I thought, well, any transition, this fits for any transition that a person is in.
Absolutely. It really fits in change overall. You know, because of course we've gone through this big change, but so many people are going through change. And sometimes, like you said, I mean, it could be all sorts of different things. But change is one of those things we're going to deal with. That is inevitable. Okay. And I like the way you put that, that change it's part of life.
It is.
I mean, goodness. I mean, and we don't have to like explain that a whole lot, right? Because everybody knows that things change. We have to update things, but we change. We're all getting older, and
it's true.
Let's not start there. But the truth is that everything's changing. But then you added a part that becomes optional.
Yeah.
And so tell us about
Yeah, sort of my main idea was change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And as I was thinking about that in my preparation, I like the way that I sort of attempted to give language to that and phrase that, where I said something to the effect of the weight of change can either hold us down or it can catapult us forward. And I sort of had this like image of like a boulder coming down either on the other side of a catapult and changing us, launching us, or like crushing us. That weight, but we get to choose. We get to choose the way that we interact with the weight of change and the weight of transition. And it's not always easy, but we get to choose whether or not we grow from it or whether or not we get stuck in it. And I don't always grow from it. I guess I just be honest, I don't always choose growth. It was, transition is tough.
Yeah. And so that means that, so the growth is the choice in this, in a sense. And I'm just trying to think of change that grows us. A lot of change, a lot of change. I think of a lifespan of a human, and I think of my kids. I've got a a middle school, a couple middle schoolers, and one's going through puberty. There's a lot of change going on, right? A lot of growth, though. Change. You get to a certain point in life, and all the change is kind of the other direction, right? Unless you really work at it. Right. You can still, grow muscles. You can still get faster and all that stuff through life. It sometimes takes a little harder than it used to when we were 18. But you can grow, but it takes that effort. Whereas like my kids, our kids, they're growing, and it's not like they have to try too much, right?
No,
in fact, we're trying to stop them from growing a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Not really.
Right.
Just slow down.
But I do think that emotional growth, the spiritual growth, that takes intentionality.
Yes. That as adults in anything, we have to choose, and it takes some work.
It does.
It takes some exercise.
It does.
Even. And so that's what's optional.
So and I wanted to suggest in the message that the ancient Israelite community and the establishment of the Second Temple was giving us a blueprint in a sense through narrative to follow, to say, what does this look like to grow in the midst of change? And I suggested three things that it really, in order to grow in the midst of change, we have to remember God's past faithfulness. And that's what they do right when they lay the foundation. We have to process our emotions honestly, and then we have to press forward in unity. And that's more of a corporate thing, but I think you could just say, if it's just you personally, we got to keep moving forward, because there is no rewind button on life. Like it doesn't it doesn't go that direction. And it's great to remember the past. It's great to celebrate the past. It's great to honor the past. It's terrible to live in the past.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that can hold a lot of people up. So those are the things. And I think of those three, Josh, the one that really hit home for me, and I think our church community at large, was this being honest about emotions and not ignoring them, not being directed or driven by them, but acknowledging and naming them and saying, that's okay. It's okay that I feel that way.
Absolutely. Because, and that was, I think, freeing for people. And I think it was also wise, because we knew that people were not gonna love all the color choices.
Yeah. Some people weren't.
And
some people were like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Some people were going to love it.
And other people were like,
yeah.
And some were like, I hate it.
Yeah. And to be clear, my guess is no. And I know for a fact that not everybody loved the last time that this happened.
Yeah, that's true.
I met with someone this week who told me that last time they did this, they made a bunch of choices. And so this was one of our faithful women in our church told me this, and she found out afterwards that the group of people that made all the decisions were all men.
Oh,
And so she was actually asking, there were women on this team, right? And there absolutely were.
Actually, our main design.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I told her that. And so interestingly, back then she was kind of like, well, come on, guys, why did you make all these choices, and why so much mauve?
A lot of mauve.
There was a lot
Holy
of mauve. Now, she did tell me that was kind of in back then.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, in 30 years, I'm guessing they'll make fun of some of our choices.
No doubt. I don't know which ones yet, but don't know. They will. That's like, these things are seasonal. They're temporary.
Totally.
They're designed to be changed every few decades. Unless, like, I'm going to reference Notre Dame this week.
Yes.
In my message. And unless you have something like that, right? That's unless like just iconic and beautiful. Yeah. And anyway,
which, like the thing I could see lasting in there is that cross, actually.
Yeah, I could see that too. I could see that too.
Yeah, a lot of everything else will get used and need to be replaced or get painted.
Yep.
That's one of the nice things about this space, is that it's more of a canvas.
Yeah.
And so you can, there's not features in it that are stuck that way.
That was intentional.
And exactly. And that's something that we always struggled with. Whenever we went to do a Christmas concert of some sort, right, where we would want to decorate, there was a lot of pieces in the old building and the way it was that was difficult to work around.
Yes.
And that's what I'll say.
True.
This is great. And you know what? If we really want to, in a few years, we could slap some more paint.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And really change the thing.
Yep.
But
I do think that this emotion piece, Josh, is really key for us as people, because it seems to me, and I could be wrong on this, but that there are times when in the Christian community, the narrative, or what it seems like what you're supposed to do, is don't ignore not only don't be driven by your emotions, but try your best to ignore them, because what you need to focus on is facts, not feelings. And I would say that we cannot be fully human and healthy if we don't acknowledge our emotions. And just like we shouldn't be driven by them, but I think we have to acknowledge them in order to be healthy and whole.
Absolutely. A professor of mine, in dealing with our spiritual life, knowing where we are, he would say this way, that that emotions are great windows. They're windows into our soul. Now, they're terrible leaders.
Yeah.
He'd say. And I've always remembered that we don't follow our emotions necessarily. So you don't always, just because you feel some way, is not always the best reason to just act on that feeling.
Right.
But it does tell you about what's going on in you. Right. And so those feelings of maybe a dislike or sadness or I don't know, anger, any of those things,
sorrow,
those feelings are great ways to stop and look inside and say, this is what's going on in me. Now, but those feelings are real.
They are.
And that is maybe oftentimes the most real thing you can deal with. Is what's happening in you right now. Now, they don't mean that they're right.
Correct.
Don't always mean your feelings aren't always good. But it's reality.
It is. And so if you're listening or watching and going, well, is that biblical? Yes. So let me point to Jesus. Right? That's always the trump card. Right? So Jesus, but in the garden, when Jesus is praying, and right before he's arrested and then subsequently crucified, he prays and he says to his Father, I'm sorrowful even to the point of death. And so Jesus experienced deep emotion, and he was able to name it. And I think that's an important part of the journey, right? Is to be able to say, here is how I'm feeling, and to not try to justify it or even to feel bad about it. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. I know I should be happy about this change, but I'm not. but I gotta,
as if Jesus was, I need to just be happy about the cross.
Right.
I'm going to go through torture and death, and I just should be happy.
Yeah.
Right. Come on.
I'm
so glad he didn't.
I think there's a deep sense of joy that's in him.
Yeah.
But for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. But the joy was coming, right? It was like, God, I trust you in this. And I just love the way that he models that. He cries, he's sorrowful, he names it, and then he submits and he surrenders. And he goes, all right, Lord, you've heard it.
Yeah.
And now I need to let it go. And that's when for those listening and watching, that's when he says, not my will, but yours be done.
Exactly.
Right. And he says, okay, God, this is yours now. And I want you to lead and guide as you see fit.
Absolutely. And and that's exactly, you're right. He didn't let that sorrow lead him.
Right.
In that it didn't, make him walk away.
Yeah.
Which, and I don't know if I would have to believe there's some sort of even fear in a sense, right? In a healthy way, because not all you have to have fear in order to have courage. It was courageous to enter and to go to the cross, right? Even for Jesus. And yet courage is in the face of fear, not ignoring fear. That's wisdom. So there's definitely some fear of future danger going on there.
Yeah.
And he didn't let that emotion lead.
Right.
Instead, he recognizes it.
Yes.
Points it out. In a sense, it's claiming what is reality, what is going on in his life. And I think that had to be some of the strength that allowed him to continue.
Oh, most definitely. And I don't know about you, Josh. I'd be interested to know how you're wired in this. I am an Enneagram 3. And one of the things as I was sort of reading about that, and I don't put a ton of stock in things like that, but one of the unique things about a 3 is that they're not aware of their own emotions a lot of the time. And that's been part of my journey.
Yeah.
Is I have gone a number of times where somebody's asked me like, well, how are you feeling? And like, my honest answer is, I don't know. I haven't thought about that,
Totally.
And that's part of me, like just being like, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. We can do this. Let's do this. And so I need to carve out space and quiet in order to sort of ask myself that question. How am I feeling about this? And, even like the emotion wheel is helpful for me, like to go, how am I feeling? Okay, good. I've got some options here. Right. I remember a good friend of mine said, I thought the only 2 emotions that I had were happy or mad. Yeah. And so for him, it was a journey also to go, okay, how do we start to give language to what's going on in our soul?
Yeah.
And like you said, not be driven by them, but sort of use that as like gauges on the dashboard of our car to say, all right, is there something going on in me that I need to address and talk to somebody about, or get honest about, or bring before God?
Yeah. Mine, I relate to that a lot. In that, yet I'm a 7, okay, which is kind of the always wanting everyone else to have fun.
Yeah.
So it's actually, there's this wanting others to experience joy, to be okay. Like, so when other people are showing emotions and feelings, that's when it's like, I've got to fix that.
Yeah.
I've got to make them feel.
Let's do something fun.
Let's do something fun. Let's, But I get that.
And I think,
but it's not always about, it's not always about me. Right. So that's the part that I totally relate to.
Yeah.
Is that stopping to think about how I'm doing because I'm also like overly optimistic. Like, I'll be fine. I got this. No problem. And that's that I totally relate to that.
So, and I think whether it's, it doesn't matter if it's Enneagram or Strength Finders or, spiritual gift assessment, whatever. I think it's important to try to figure out how you're wired. And because you do have emotions. The most dangerous ones are the ones you can't name and won't acknowledge.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones. And one of my fears, Josh, going into Sunday was if we didn't talk about that a little bit, that those little seeds could start to develop in our soul that eventually grow into bitterness and division, right? But as we talk about them, at least we give language to them and we can point at it and go, okay, that's there. God, will you help me deal with that in a healthy way? I won't claim to acknowledge it or claim to know exactly what that is, but you do. And so I'm just going to bring it to you.
Yes. And that's what I love. I love about that. In fact, Carolyn mentions, how about the Psalms? And I think she's right on with us here because the Psalms are highly emotional.
Very.
Tons of emotions. Sometimes emotions that I think to myself, oh, you can't say that to God.
Yeah.
Right.
And it certainly shouldn't be in scripture.
You shouldn't say that. And so she says, so honest about feelings, but always, they always come back to God. And they're at least they're bringing them to God. Right. There are a few that I think, oh, there's not a good ending to this. Why are you saying it that way? But that's the key, Carolyn. I think you're exactly right. They felt like that their emotions, that God was a safe place for them to bring their emotions, and so safe that other people related to those prayers and those songs, and so that they collected those. Right, those 150 are not the only 150 psalms that were written. There were others, yet those were ones that were so valuable. Even the highly emotional ones, even the ones that are downright sometimes just over the top emotional. Right? That's a place that we can bring to God. That He's a safe place for that.
Yeah, the Psalms of Lament.
Oh my goodness.
I think there's roughly 40 at least.
Yes.
Imprecatory psalms, like psalms where the author is saying, hey, God, what I'd really like you to do is hurt these people.
Yes.
And but the beautiful thing about that is what they're naming what's in there, right? What's in their soul. They're bringing it to God, and they're saying, God, if you'd like suggestions, here's what I'd like to see happen. If we could kill them, that'd be great, right? They're naming it, bringing it to God, giving Him their suggestions. But in the end, typically it's a release of God. You're God, I'm not. And I'm trusting you with this, but I'm not holding it anymore. I think that's what the imprecatory psalms are all about. Is a release of anger to God, saying, I'm not going to hold this anymore. Now you're holding it, and you have to decide what you're going to do with it.
I love it. That's what Gwen is saying. Almost the exact same thing. Sometimes God waits for us to name things, and when we do, that's when He acts upon them, in a sense, like, as if to say, that's part of He's just waiting for us to recognize that He's there, or that he can take it. That's one of the things that I found so powerful in dealing with people that are going through like a change, like a death in their family, a death of a spouse, giving them freedom to take their anger, take that pain, that frustration with the way the world works, and take it to God. And say, God, this is, and ask the same questions that the Psalms ask. Why? God, how long are you going to make me do this? How long am I going to be lonely? I mean, all those things.
Why do the wicked prosper?
Why? Exactly. Those are Bible questions. Those are questions we're encouraged to pray. And I think that's so powerful. And what it's doing is recognizing it's in our emotions. And we can't move forward unless we do that.
Pastor and author named Pete Scazzaro has written a number of books on emotionally healthy. So emotionally healthy spirituality, discipleship, church, leadership, relationships, etc. But one of his phrases and quotes that just caught me, Josh, is he says, it's impossible to be spiritually healthy while being emotionally unhealthy. And so I think if we try to sort of like compartmentalize our life and say, well, the emotions are one thing, but I'm really just going to focus in on my spiritual life. And I think that we miss out on a more holistic transformation that God wants to bring to us.
Oh, I completely agree with you there.
So I'd commend those books to people if you're interested in sort of diving into that a little bit more. From a secular point of view, there's emotional intelligence and that work. But I really think Pete Scazzero's work with emotionally healthy is really, really good.
Yeah, that's emotionally healthy spirituality. We're reading it as a staff.
Yep.
And we spend a little bit of time each week. We sit down with a group and talk through it. It's been really good to talk about it in a group. Really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a once a year read through for me. Like I have to.
That's great.
Just because of the way I'm programmed. I have to do it.
Absolutely. And so here's the thing, though. I think we are people who a lot of what we think about is based in the past, right? And we talk about the past. There's a book, right? This book that we read sometimes called the Bible.
New.
It's not new. No, it's quite old. It happened a long time ago. So we're people who talk about the past, but we're also people who have a hope for the future.
Yeah.
And so I hear a lot of people kind of talk about like a heaven mindset or like a future mindset that we need to be there. And yet those are all a part of this whole thing. And yet what you're saying is that there's something even more valuable and important that is going on right now, that we've got to deal with reality in a sense. It's going to be grounded in God's faithfulness in the past.
Yep.
Right. We know who God is going to be for us today because of what he's done in the past.
Yep.
And yes, we're going to have a hope for the future, but we don't live in either of those two places.
Right. We live now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We see God's faithfulness in the past. We're confident in God's character. And so we have hope for the future, but we live in the present. And I think that's really important. We have to live in the present.
Yeah.
That's the only place we can live. Some have also said it's the only place we meet with God.
Exactly.
Is in the present. It's now.
Exactly. That's C.S. Lewis in the Screw Tape Letters. And I don't have the quote in front of me directly, but so the Screw Tape is, Wormwood is trying to teach Screw Tape, or did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
that's right.
There's two devils, C.S. Lewis calls them, right? And one is Screw Tape, one is Wormwood, and I'm mixing up which is which, but one is the senior devil.
Yeah.
And he's got an apprentice, and it is an amazing book. One of the things he says is that try to get your person, because this devil has a human that he's tempting, a mark, right? Yeah, that's right. He says, try to get them to live in the past. Or live in the future. Now, he says the past is dangerous because it's dealing with reality, right? And so it's dealing with something that's happened. But he says you can get people like caught up in all sorts of things if they fully live in the past, if they hope for things to go back to the past, because then they're hoping for something that never can be. It's dangerous in the past, but he says, if anything, try to get them to live in the future. That the future is the least like reality, he says. He says that it is the furthest from reality because it doesn't exist yet. But then he says this great line that the eternal rays, the present is full of eternal rays. That is, the present is where eternity touches.
Ooh.
And it only touches present right now where we're dealing with. And I love it. Line. He's kind of saying, like, he's telling the tempter to avoid the present. So, as you read it, you're always reading it backwards.
Yes.
And recognizing that what he's saying is that as Christians, we need to live in the present, in reality. Oh. And I think I love that. That's even because I love your definition of discipleship. There's kind of one of the many definitions of discipleship, right? Is living.
Aligning our lives with reality.
Yeah, with reality.
And that's just out of John chapter 8, right? Where Jesus says, you shall know the truth or reality, and it shall set you free. If you abide in my word, follow my commands.
Yeah.
You'll know the truth.
Yeah. That's great. That's really cool. And so that's really what this was about, that we're processing those emotions, but with hope for.
Totally.
Pressing on toward the future. And that's different than living in the future. Okay. So, or like, what C.S. Lewis was worried about is that we're just so thinking about what could be maybe down the road instead of pressing into the future.
Right.
Because that's a biblical concept.
Yes.
Of moving forward into it, of taking people along and taking the steps towards the future.
Yep.
That's really living in the present with an eye to the future.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, and one of the things that I wanted to hit on, and this isn't as applicable for like individuals, maybe, or maybe it is, maybe with couples as they're looking at like a move or a change or a transition, they may be in very different spots. But I was struck by the fact that these Israelites are in different spots with emotion regarding change. So some are shouting for joy and some are weeping. And yet the text seems to suggest that both of these parties are building together, like in the next verse.
Yeah.
And so their emotions around change didn't determine their unity moving forward.
That is so cool.
And I thought, what a great challenge for a church that's going through a number of different changes, that we would be people who, man, we're honest about our emotions. And yet we also realize whether we love the space or hate the space, it's what we have right now, you know, and whether we love the last 13 months or hate the last 13 months, we're moving into a different season now. And we can move into it together, even if we don't feel the same way about it. And I think a shallow spirituality says you have to feel the same way in order to move forward together.
Yeah. Or even worse, you have to feel like me.
Yeah.
You know, right? Go. Because that's, and that, I think that's one of those signs of poor leadership, or leadership without a vision for the future, in a sense. Because if your vision is like, just be like me, that's gonna be, well, it's gonna be a very small church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
very limiting.
Very limiting. Right. And not a place that has the variety of Jesus.
Right.
And that is one of the interesting things, is there was some, you know, their leadership had some freedom in that back then. I mean, they didn't like chastise the people that are weeping.
No.
I mean, apparently not. They didn't, you know, they didn't say, well, like, then why don't you go back to Assyria or whatever, where they go.
Yeah.
From. Yeah. This is, they incorporated them.
They did. And I think that probably was a healing balm for their community. I think that the project together, right, is one of the things that unites a community. I'm always reminded that the mission of the church preceded the church, right? So we always, I think we think, let's develop a community and then let's send them on mission. And I've seen community develop best through groups that are on mission together, rather than trying to sort of artificially create the community and then come up with a mission. It's no, here's the mission, and let's, there's other people going along. Great. Like, we're united and bonded together in that because of the mission. And I think that's the way the church is most healthy.
Yeah. And
it allows us to let go of some of the things that we may say are secondary. And focus on the things that are most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and that's where, I mean, look, I think it's a great challenge, because we're at a point where we're able to pursue our mission in the ways that we're used to, right? Okay, COVID didn't stop the mission of Jesus, right?
No.
And the mission of his church, and ever since we've been pushing into that in unique ways, but we're opening back up. There are places for you to serve, and what you said just there reminded me of the beauty of serving on the team, of youth ministry, back when college ministry. Those people, when you gathered around a bunch of people that cared about reaching youth or reaching whatever that was the best community ever, right? Because we've done it all, where we've kind of joined a small group that you didn't really know, and that can be great community. But there's something powerful about joining with a group of other people that are working in children's ministry, you know, that are working in outreach, whatever that is. And there's a lot of those opportunities right now to join in here at the church, wherever you are. we'd love to talk to you about that. We've just had a rally day.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, a bunch of people signing up, but there's more.
Yeah.
And there's more. And so if anybody wants to get involved somehow, I mean, you could get involved even online these days. You don't even have to come here, right? There's ways to serve from your home that is reaching out and helping people.
Yeah.
And so you can contact us, let us know. We would love to do that. But back to our topic, Gwen points out a great point there, that sometimes it's important to visit the past so that you can live more fully in the now and have a better future.
Love that.
That's great.
Yep.
So
true.
You visit it. You're thinking, and that's that you praise God for this faithfulness, even in the hard times. Right.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's a reframing of the past in a sense.
There is. That's what struck me. And that wasn't quite even in my notes, but as I was preaching it, I'm going, gosh, there's 70 years of frustration, probably questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Like wondering, God, where were you when? And when they start to lay the foundation, it's you have been good and you have been loving. And you wonder, like, if you were to parachute into one of their days over those 70 years, would they have seen that in the day? Would that have been the testimony that day? But looking back over the landscape, they go, no, you have. In the twists and the turns, you have been faithful and good.
Oh, yeah.
Tov and chesed.
Chesed, I know.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite lines of you had everybody say chesed, which you've got to say, it's guttural.
It is guttural.
And then he said, I probably should have had you put your mask on for that. That was hilarious. That was great. I was cracking up with that. But that's that looking back, because you're right. I mean, those are the times. Wouldn't that be when, I mean, like a lot of like Lamentations kind of would have been written in that, at least in similar times.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was.
Yeah.
So these are times when those when people are not going through the best of times.
Yeah, but I love that we don't have to choose between lament and joy.
Yeah.
That they can coexist in a community and probably in our own life too, right? That and that we can see God's love and faithfulness and lament at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's what a lot of people go through, that they've gone through tough things. And those things, we're not saying that all of a sudden it's just better. It's not reframing and saying that like something that was really bad and hurt you is now good.
No.
It's not, but it's seeing God in that. And that was the point, is to notice God's faithfulness.
Yeah, that's a good clarification.
And I think that's what makes this really powerful. I'm going to type in here. Pancho's asking for the name of that book. I should have just added in the comments, but this is Emotionally. I don't know how to spell emotionally. Sorry. I'm going to type it back in the book, and spell check is going to help me.
Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. It's by Pete Scazzaro. And I think he's written, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 books on the subject of emotional health, each from a little bit of a different angle. That would be the one where I would start. Emotionally Healthy Spirituality.
Oh, Ryan, if you had to spell Scazzaro.
2 Z's.
2 Z's.
Z's. SCAZZER.
Okay, this is going to make some wonderful podcasting right here. Ladies and gentlemen, as we spell a random name. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. So this is Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. You can find that, but Pete Scazzaro.
Yep.
That must have been a bummer name to have as a kid.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know.
Depends on where you grow up, I
maybe
guess.
Maybe not, but that hey. Yeah. But it's a great book, and maybe that's why he is so emotionally healthy now, because he as a kid he was tortured in the past. He didn't talk about that at all. That's just silly.
That's hilarious.
All right, silliness. Well, well, hey, Carolyn, thanks so much. She's her words, not mine. Vitalogy expands our Lord's community to people from other places like me. Well, thank you,
Carolyn. I love you. So good to have you interact with us. Carolyn's coming in from Colorado.
Yeah. So glad.
So good to have you.
I'm so glad. Well, we love doing this.
We do.
And
thanks for commenting, you guys.
I know.
Those who commented throughout, we love that interaction. And so thank you.
And we would love it if this weekend, as you listen, okay, as we talk about going back to this not so normal, not so new, because I love that. We're going to be looking at Acts. I'd love it if you're thinking about what are the questions, what are things that you want to dive in deeper. Like, what's something you'd like a few more sentences or maybe a whole nother sermon about? Okay, those are the questions we'd love to hear, and they can be critical. They can be, not of the preaching, because of course it's fabulous, but they can be like,
okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about civil disobedience this week, and how do we do that well, and when. I'm going to talk about the early church's priorities and when they had a platform, what did they talk about? They didn't talk about everything. I was even struck by the fact that they didn't really even try to defend the Bible. They didn't engage too much in like current social or political issues. And there were a number of them that they could have, right?
Goodness.
And maybe they did at other times and they just didn't make scripture. I'm going to talk about, like, what does it look like to be a community that balances and holds in tension without trying to resolve the tension of doing good and proclaiming the gospel? Like, what does that look like in our day and our time? But my hope is that the whole thing, whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, applies to you. And that the big thing we're wrestling with this weekend is, what does it look like to have influence even when you don't have power? Ooh. So
this is going to be a fun conversation to talk through.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, I think there's going to be a lot to go through. So I want you to be thinking about those questions and what you'd like to know a little bit more about. And we'll be seeing you next week. We won't be doing this on Wednesday night again next week. Because that's our prayer time.
Prayer night.
And so
first Wednesday prayer.
First Wednesday prayer. And so if you're around, if you're local, come on over. We're going to be here. We'll be in the chapel.
Yep.
I believe. We'll be in the chapel. We'll be praying together every first Wednesday. And so that'll be great. We will find a time, and we will try to let you know a few days in advance on the Facebook.
A few hours in advance.
And sometimes we'll change that a few hours in that day, which I'm sorry we did that today. But we love doing this. We love your interaction, and we're so thankful for those of you who stop us through in the at church or write us notes, and we really appreciate it. And we're so glad that this can be of value to you, because I know it is for me as well. So
me too, Josh. Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you, and everybody have a great day.
Yeah, God bless.